by my wonderful dear friend Griff Rees of the Super Furry Animals, and should be a total delight. Going into next year, we're announcing for the first time today 6 of our highlights across the year. So we'll be inviting the great champion of Manchester International Festival and local hero, Maxine Peake, with her team of collaborators, including Sarah Frankham, to create an immersive theatre piece for our warehouse space, based on the story of Robin Redbreast, which was a precursor of the Wicker Man. It should be quite scary. We'll also have the great Robert Wilson, one of the world's most epic and respected theatre directors, working with Bianca Casti for a brand new version and contemporary version of The Jungle Book, with all new music, a delight for children and families, but also for people who follow the forefront, really, of the theatre world. In the summer, we'll have Marshmallow Laser Feast, who many of you will know as the great innovators of virtual and video arts, again taking over the warehouse with a piece called Sweet Dreams that will take you on a culinary adventure through video and immersive reality. And then heading into the autumn, we've got some extraordinary new work happening, including Laurie Anderson's first major music work for probably a couple of decades now. Laurie, of course, one of the most respected artists in the world, our resident in New York, working globally, has been working with us since we broke ground on this site. She did the groundbreaking ceremony for us in 2017, and at that point committed that when we open this building, she's a visionary and she could see the vision of it. She was going to make one of her most significant works ever for this space. We've got Ivan Blackstock, who we co-produced in his amazing piece Trap Lord, which went on to win an Olivier Award, coming to us here in Manchester to show that work. And the great Keith Calm, one of the UK's finest theatre makers, creating a piece called The Accountants. Maybe not the most exciting title in the world, but when you hear that it's going to involve casts of Indian and Chinese dancers and performers expressing the cultures of those two great civilizations, as well as the contemporary reality of those two very powerful economies through music, dance, and video magic, I think you'll admit that it probably sounds a bit more exciting than day-to-day accountancy. So those are the things that we've got coming up. But the thing we've got coming up tonight is the opening night of Free Your Mind, truly one of the most extraordinary pieces of performance and art that I've ever had the privilege to be involved with. So I'm going to invite 4 of our key collaborators from Free Your Mind to the stage now. Please welcome Ken Ritsandi, Danny Boyle, Mikey Jayasanti, and Ez Devlin. On. Hello. And this one? Great. We're going to do a little bit of mic sharing, I think. Yeah. Danny, since you've actually got the first mic, can I start off with you? And actually, can you just tell us a bit about Free Your Mind and, without giving too much away, what we might be expecting to see?
Yeah, well, it's well, we were asked by you to whether we consider making a show, and we've been talking separately about the Matrix, and just as I think probably anybody who knows it sort of feels it swims into focus more and more. I remember seeing it, thinking, well, it was really impressive, but I was a bit baffled by it, to be honest. You know, as you're trying to work it out, and it swam into focus, and we talked about that. And given the way the world was going, and this is like 5 years ago almost, and it felt like the right piece to try and introduce to as wide an audience as possible as a way of introducing a building. You know, because buildings can be intimidating. They're dazzling and it's wonderful making speeches and everything like that. But you've got to think about how ordinary people look at a space and think, does that belong to me? And we thought, well, why don't we use the Matrix as a way to try and achieve our ultimate ambition, which is the brief you gave us, which is to somehow give the keys of the building to the people of Manchester. And it's a historic site, as we know, Granada, but all, as Nick was saying, but also factory was just up the street, and it felt like, how can we create a piece of work that feels truly contemporary, resonates across a wide cultural language. Everybody has the Matrix in their language to one degree or another. And thereby open, undo the locks of the building really, and make it feel like there aren't any locks on this building really. That it's an open space for people to cherish. The spaces you're going to see tonight, we've used as many of them as we can, but there are others. It's obvious to us just being here, opening it, that there are other places that can use this in itself. The one we're in now is kind of the best of all of them. The social hall. It's a wonderful space, the hub, for people to meet up and to kind of just hang out and maybe dream of DJing here or dancing here. And we were just saying, we went home the other night, it was about midnight, we were going home, and we walked under the building, there were some kids dancing, just showing each other their moves. And I thought they were our cast, because our cast are pretty young, but they weren't. They were just kids. Don't know where they were from. And you think the dream is they are given the keys. Because it's they that will be important, not any of us really in a way. It's they that will define it in 20, 30 years' time. And it's their fingerprints that this building needs. So that's what we're hoping to facilitate through the Matrix.
Brilliant. And we've been in preview for a few days already, tweaking the show, but it's been open to the public during preview. And I have to say, the audience for this show has not been like any other audience that you see in a regular theatre show or dance show even. It's just been a real expression of the diversity and range of the people who live in this city. But Mikey, I know you were really central to this idea of going into the future by referencing a film from a good few years ago, which felt super relevant. Do you want to talk about why The Matrix?
Well, when you think about what it was saying, and really in part what it did for myself and Ken in terms of our mindsets moving forward, it's truly a full circle moment. But then it makes it even more potent as to the idea of what does it say now, so we can do the next leap for another set of people. Because it's become prophetic, right? In part, it's spoken about where we are and the digitization of the world and how we're interacting with, our digital footprint, essentially, on so many different levels, whether you talk about it in relation to, the cost of it in terms of the world and the wider idea of climate change, etc. But then also in the same regard, like Danny and I was talking earlier, we have digital natives, people who have now never not had the internet or the notion of digital tech in their lives, and that it's a normality. And now this advent of AI has just, sent us right to the moon with the idea of what we can do next or what we as human beings can actually try and push. But then the Matrix as an idea, or the concept of the Matrix at the time, was really, this evil thing that was coming in and stopping Zion and stopping humanity. And now we find ourselves in a space where it's like, wait, hold on. How can we live with it? How can we use it to embolden us to move forward? And how can we start judging that tech as an ally in what we might want to achieve as a race, right? So the notion of where we sit with the show, it's just, okay, cool. We can be a part of that conversation. And I think that's the biggest part. And with our journey with this, finding Turing was, and I don't want to spoil the narrative per se, but finding Turing and that of Manchester as well, another full circle moment. And the power of what this individual, what he was thinking way back, and some of the things, the struggles, the ideas he had, being a part of that new journey, that new conversation. Wow, it just, you never ever think something like this would fall in your laps. And here we are today with it, calling it the Matrix now. So we're hoping it can make that leap forward for the next generation.
That's brilliant. And I have to say, actually, the machines get a better press in this show than they do in the original film. There's a bit more love for artificial intelligence. And that's also experienced in things like surrounding the show. So our amazing costume designer, the fashion designer, Gareth Pugh, has created an augmented reality experience that you can also have in and around the building, seeing extraordinary images and creatures appear. And we've also had artists responding like Jeanette Winterson, who's written a beautiful essay for the programme about how we think about our future with machines. And one of the things that we really want here is to stimulate thinking and ideas about the future as well as the artwork itself. But going back to the artwork, Ken, you've been really at the heart of all of these rehearsals with 50 dancers, imagining a whole language really to tell this story and to transmit these ideas. Would you tell us a bit about that experience and about the process that you've been through?
Boy, it's been here for about 10 weeks now in Manchester. I actually feel like a resident now, so sorry London, I might not come back. It's been a really good process. There have been challenges, but we've pushed through. The dancers are both from London and Manchester or Northwest, and it has been a very refreshing experience. It's been very honourable to come up from London and to bring servitude for this space, for the dance community, especially up here, to push the dancers, push their artistry, then the understanding of what it takes to create a show like this, especially with regards to the fact that we're using the whole building. It feels like we're doing multiple different types of shows in the space, so it's a different mindset for each space. There's been a lot of breaking of ego, of what you thought you knew, what you know now, and just the skill set, the conditioning, the well-being, to understand that every morning you got to warm up, at the end you got to cool down. It's mandatory. We are athletes first and foremost. We are artists, but we're athletes, and it's trying to push them into this entrepreneurship. What now? What's next? How are you using this show to push your brand, to push you as an artist? So we're having conversations with them about that as well. Looking at how we create movement that tells the story of the Matrix or our interpretation of the Matrix. What is that, and how we build them to amplify that and punch that out to the audience. How you look up and use the light to shine your face to make a different mood. All of that has been put into this process. And we have been truly blessed with how we've been treated with regards to the rehearsal space. We've been blessed with you lot. Like, you know, you lot have like really made sure we felt like home. It's felt like home. You know what I mean? We haven't felt like an outsider. It feels like this is a national project. It doesn't feel like it's just Manchester. It feels like it's a national project. And I agree that this space has big opportunities to push the artists, not only just in Manchester, but nationally. I think it's time that people from London start coming up to Manchester more, start coming up and start either bringing servitude or coming to see what's happening here. And it's definitely allowed me to buffer up what I do up in Manchester, because I teach quite a lot in Manchester as well. So it's just been a really refreshing. I feel very, very proud of the cast. I feel very proud of what we've achieved. I feel very proud of even just being on this platform with these amazing people and all the amazing people in the space, the people working at the bar, to the tech, to those who are just hands-on. Do you know what I mean? One thing I did say on the first day we came here was that everyone has to bring grace to each other. Even if you don't work with that person, say hello, because that person is on the same job, on the same wavelength, on the same frequency, and we're all trying to do a good job. And now that we're here for our opening, it just feels even more mandatory that we continue with the grace and we continue bringing the love and the understanding that we are all human. Because I feel like we've slightly lost that because of digital, because of the whole energy of that. What is it with regards to human energy, human spirit, human desire? Us as performers, when we go on stage, we're not trying to perform as a robot. We're trying to interpret that. But as a human being, what am I saying to you through my movement? How is my language speaking to you without saying anything? And I feel like right now we're getting into a space where we're allowing ourselves to be human again. Brilliant.
As you will have noticed, Ken's a very inspiring figure, and I think when you see the show tonight, you'll feel that inspiration in the cast. 50 young dancers getting, in many cases, their first big professional break, working professionally, doing extraordinary things on stage, but very much inspired by the leadership they've had from the creative team. And Ellen has created this space for artists for us, and we've got visual artists from around the world, as I say, kind of queuing up to make work in the space. But we were so thrilled as part of this team to have one of our great UK visual artists making the environment in which the imagination of the Matrix explodes, really. And I know that Ez Devlin, who is our designer and set visual artist, has also been seeing this building emerge, as have all the team, across the years. So I wanted to turn to you, Ez, and say, for you as an artist and a thinker, every day about space and visuality, what has it been like to work in this building? What are some of the creative thoughts that you've been having?
Well, firstly, what a privilege to work in a building designed by a woman. Let's just a round of applause for a huge art centre designed by a female architect. And the word matrix means mother. That's what the word means. And there is a deep spirit of Ellen's care throughout this building. I've always loved the Manchester International Festival, and honestly, I had a worry in my heart about it having a home, because the whole point for me about Manchester Festival was it had to be making new homes all over the city. And what Ellen did with all her collaborators that have been mentioned so brilliantly was to keep that sense of provisionality, of openness throughout every space in the building. So you walk into this space and you feel like it's open for you to create in. You walk into the auditorium and you feel like you need to create a theatre, create a stage. We only got the stage height right halfway through the tech. It was like, what height should the stage be? All of that stuff. And you laid that open to us as a question, which was a beautiful thing to do. And I think what we wanted to do above all was to invite the first audience to discover the building as we had been discovering it, as we looked at Ellen's plans, and then we watched the building rise out from this beautiful spot next to the river. And hopefully the audience tonight will experience what we have, because they'll start in one piece, they'll enter another piece. And also, we've talked a little bit about how much we've enjoyed this process. We've also been grabbing opportunities as we go. As you mentioned, Gareth Pugh, who's not with us, has made an art piece in AR that you'll discover around the building. I've made an art piece that'll be opening next week. We've sort of made a decision that nothing will be wasted. If we're putting resources into scenery, technical elements, then they should be open all day for the public. So the art piece I've made will be open for free every day when the theatre's not operating. So every single fragment people are just going for. I should also mention Sabrina Mahfouz, who's our wonderful writer, who you'll hear the words of at the beginning of the piece, which are, I think, incredibly profound as well. So it's just been a privilege throughout to be invited to inaugurate and consecrate this new space of ritual in the city.
Thank you so much, Ez, Danny, Mikey, and Ken.